Hey there, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about notes on the treble clef staff. But before we do that, let's just review. You remember on a staff you have 5 lines. There's the first line, the second line, third line, fourth line, and fifth line. And you have 4 spaces. There's the first space, second space, third space, and fourth space. Okay? Now as I mentioned, you can have spaces and lines both above the staff and below the staff. These lines above the staff and below the staff are referred to as ledger lines, L-E-D-G-E-R, ledger lines, okay? So if you were to look below the staff, here you have the first line of the staff, then right below the staff you'd have a space, then you'd have the first ledger line, then you'd have a space, and then you'd have the second ledger line below the staff, then you'd have a space and the third ledger line, okay? Coming up here, here's the top line of the staff, you'd have a space and then the first ledger line, space, and then second ledger line, space, and then third ledger line. So you can have notes written in all these lines and spaces, right? Okay, looking at the treble clef. The first ledger line below the treble clef staff is where we write middle C. See the notes written right on that first ledger line below the staff when we have a treble clef, okay? The first space below the treble clef staff is D. That's one whole step above middle C. And the first line of the treble clef staff is E, which is 2 whole steps above middle C. Okay, but all of this, having this note here be C, and this note here be D, and this note here be E, and more specifically, middle C, okay, this is all dependent on having a treble clef, okay? If there's not a treble clef there, if there's some other clef, then all of this would change, right? But with treble clef, we have middle C, D, and E. If we look at the full staff here, here's the E we were just talking about. Here's the first space, which is F. Second line is G. Second space is A. Third line is B. Third space is C. This is 1 octave above middle C. And then fourth line is D. Fourth space is E. And fifth line is F. If we just look at the lines, you see we have E, G, B, D, F. And you can remember that by making up a sentence. The most traditional one that was usually used back in the good olden days was every good boy does fine, okay? But you can have every girl buys delicious fudge, or every good boy deserves fudge, or whatever sentence you can think of, okay? Spaces are a little easier because face, F-A-C-E, rhymes with space, okay? So these are little tricks on how you can remember the notes on the treble clef staff. Okay,